Mishchenko, founder of YouTeam. Anton can build you a platform with world-class engineers in 1 week.
Hello there, distinguished crowd. Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Oh, that's me. Where's my presentation then? So, yeah, I guess I'd like to tell you a bit about why I closed my office in London and moved to Kiev, even though I'm originally from Kiev, but I've lived in London for a very long time, as you can hear from the accent. So, and that's pretty much the whole point of the presentation. I'll try to share some tips on working with Ukrainian engineers and Ukrainian suppliers as well. So for some budding entrepreneurs who already asked questions, I think that may be a bit of an insight. So hopefully I'll shed some light on this. A few words about myself. I'm a classically trained musician, hence the guitar on the presentation. I've always done business. I've always been an entrepreneur. I'm a CEO and co-founder of a company called YouTeam, about which I'll tell you in a moment. Not long ago, we've graduated from a world-famous startup accelerator called Y Combinator. And I'm a first-generation immigrant. I've lived in London for over half my life. So, what's YouTeam? YouTeam is outsourcing being automated. It's sort of like Booking.com for IT outsourcing. You go on a platform, you find top suppliers that we vet, you pick the best people that we vet, you assemble your remote team, and you work, communicate, pay securely through the platform, and it makes the whole experience way easier than it usually is, and way less painful. What I want to talk about is, in my opinion, why Ukraine is the best place to expand your tech business to. The obstacles you'll definitely face, and tips on some of your team management, because again, as I said, this may be relevant to some of you. So I thought I'd use a couple of London-based football clubs to explain the three main reasons why I did move back to Ukraine. Reason number one is dramatic positive change. Reason number two is top talent, and reason number three is lower costs. Sorry, Bill. So the first thing I'd really want to talk about, which is probably what everyone's kind of talking about in terms of Ukraine, every single speaker mentioned there's so much positive change. But it's not just positive change, it's dramatic change. It's dramatic positive change. If you imagine this as a graph, there can be a dramatic positive change, dramatic negative change, mediocre positive and negative change. But if we're talking about Ukraine, there's so much happening in the market. Some stats have already been thrown. There's 290 million invested in Ukrainian startups with Ukrainian founders in 2018, I think. There's 19% growth in annual growth rate of value of IT services experts. I think there's going to be over $5 billion USD of IT services sold in 2019. And this is dramatic positive change that's happening in the country. As an entrepreneur, I want to be in a country where this happens. So that's my first reason why I moved from London, where I closed the consultancy company and I started this business back in Ukraine. So obviously, where there's dramatic positive change, but I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not here to just sell you Ukraine if you want to start a business there. It's a challenge to operate in a developing market. Judiciary obviously is a challenge. it's hard to understand how the local market works. You really need to go in and figure it out yourself. It's the power of who you know, way more than it is in countries like England or in countries like the US. It's always about who you know, and you have to know people. So it's a big challenge. Remember that if you want to, go to Ukraine, if you want to do business there. Second reason why I moved to Ukraine is, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, I want to have the longest runway possible, right? So I'm burning money in my business every day. So what I want to do is I want to extend the life cycle of my business. I want to go on as long as I can. And for that, obviously I need lower costs. Of course I need that. So if you look at the Ukrainian market, obviously with all of the great things that are happening there, you'll also find competitive salaries, you'll also find cheaper office space, you also find things that would make you running your business and the whole business more efficient. So that's reason number two. And where I think Ukraine particularly excels is that it's not always just about the cost. It's about efficiency, it's about quality of the talent, which brings me to a third reason. It's the place where I can find the top talent. It's the place that's got a talent pool growth of 26% year on year. It's the place that's got 60% growth in job placements, so that means IT's huge and growing hugely. It's got 60k IT graduates every year. And it's 2017, I didn't know that actually, 2017 offshoring destination by Global Sourcing Association, didn't know that. That was a very pleasant surprise. So that's a very simple and obvious reason number three. I want to go where I can find the top talent, because if you think about this, the rate of engineer supply grows in arithmetical progression. The rate of demand grows in geometrical progression, put simply. So the biggest problem there is that communication is always a blocker if you work internationally, and it remains so. And that's what we see on our platform, that's what we see in our business all the time. Super talented engineers, super talented people that can do anything, but they can't communicate properly with the clients or with whoever they're dealing with, and that just completely reduces their chances of having a successful project, obviously, because especially in remote work, communication is everything. So that's something to bear in mind. If you're looking to work with Ukraine, you really, really have to find the people that can communicate. So what we found from our own experience and from building, all these teams that we helped create, is that, thing number one is that you have to know how the local market works. This is crucial. I would recommend, if anyone is going to Ukraine, I'd recommend to operate as a foreign entity until you've figured out and you've definitely decided on the fact that you're expanding big time. I would deploy your own troops on the ground. I'd go there, I'd spend time, I'd live there, I'd figure it out. I've mentioned this previously. This is critically important. I'd of course try to find someone who I can trust locally, who I can work with, who can be my representative if I'm not there all the time. And this has been the case for many, many of our clients. A lot of them would send people to spend quite a lot of their time on the ground in Ukraine with the teams that they work with. I'd vet and cross-check suppliers and engineers. This is obviously the time for a shameless plug. I do apologize, but you can automate that via YouTeam, obviously. So that's a very important, reason number three. I'd definitely check vet 100 million times before I'd go into any serious engagement.
So there's a number 4.
What's that?
Contact Ukraine Invest.
Oh, yeah.
We're from the Ukrainian government. We're here to help.
Time for some advertising. All right then. So in terms of communication, I'll just go over this very quickly because I know it's not really relevant to most of you, but as I said, some entrepreneurs may be interested in this. Communication and over-communication, especially if you're building remote teams, distributed teams, this is something that I cannot overemphasize. Always provide extensive background information on whatever projects you're doing, whatever you're developing. There is no under-communication in remote work. Align everyone with the vision and culture of the company. Again, this is critically important for a remote organization. Teach people to be self-organized and accountable for the work that they do. When you're working remotely, you control the time, and you control the effort. So it's really important that every person that is in your organization is actually aware of that. Avoid micromanagement, but be in control and know what's happening always. That's probably even rule number 1. Obviously, simplify processes and strive for clarity. That's a very simple piece of advice, but first and foremost, trust your team or fire your team. Work with the team that you have and trust them, but do not work with them at all. I'd encourage all of you, if you have a tech startup, if you run a development team, or if you're looking to try and work with Ukraine, I'm a big proponent, obviously. So if you have any questions or any knowledge that you need that I can share, I'd love to tell more about this at any point in time today, or just drop me an email and talk to me. That basically concludes my presentation. Invest in Ukraine, work with Ukraine. We're up and coming, we're growing, we're cool.
One thing that resonated with me, actually a number of things resonated with me. One thing you repeated a number of times with communication. It's not really a language issue, is it? It's more about how do you market yourself? How do you sell? Where does that client, the whole client service focus? What do you do with your teams? How do you teach them that? What do you recommend to others?
This is tough. So as a marketplace, we have the luxury of selecting first and foremost rather than teaching. So the first level is try and find the ones that can communicate, that can sell themselves and sell their organizations. And that, I guess, is sort of level number 1. What we're also trying to do now, as we're growing, we're also trying to engage with the individual engineers and the organizations that they work for. And we specifically prepare and train them for the interviews that they have when they speak to the clients, or potential rather clients that would go on to hopefully hire them in the future. Thanks.
We have time for just a couple of quick questions. Gentlemen at the top there, yeah?
Myself and a lot of firms in the software development business are reluctant to give their source code to other territories because their source code can be exploited, and there's kind of reluctance around the legal framework. It might be a question for a lawyer, actually. Is the strength of the legal framework over there to protect my source code the same as it is here?
It depends how you structure your. I mean, I think it's a very technical question that I'm not really equipped to answer, but I will anyway. There are ways that you can protect your source codes. I think that relying on the emerging justice reform system, which is still in its nascent stages, you're going to have a challenge, I think, because not even that the judges are corrupt, it's just that they may not understand the issues. In fact, there's now going to be a new intellectual property court that is going to, a special court that's being set up exactly to handle these kinds of things. I don't know, have you come across this this issue, Anton, about the security of the source codes?
I do know that that's one of the reasons why we built YouTeam. Because we've kind of acknowledged the fact that this is a problem and this is a barrier for many organizations. So, we have a number of instruments with which we can help. If not lose the source code, but at least to not lose the money that you will pay for the source code. Because as a marketplace we can operate a number of instruments like escrow and so on and so forth. So that's how we as an organization try to deal with that. I wouldn't be able to comment on on the legalities of of the level that you, Daniel, are referring to, but as a company, we can help clients mitigate that risk.
Let's have a chat afterwards, okay? I'll get to understand that. In fact, when even charge it. Okay, one more question for Anton. Woman, a little gender balance.
Hi. Thank you very much for a very insightful presentation. My name is Valeria Yuskevich. I work for Accenture Consulting. My question to you is, how have you observed the profile of your client change since you started YouTeam?
So, as we're a startup and we're startup founders, we've always aimed at startups to be our target audience. This is our tribe. We know how they operate, we know how they think, and we know exactly how to help them. So I'd say as we grow, we've moved from the kind of C-level startup being our target audience to Series A to Series B, which is what we're, the type of the organization we're aiming now, because we understand that if the startup at a seed level is making a decision to go and outsource or set up a remote team, this may be based on the immediate need to save some money. If we're saying, if we're talking to an organization that's Series A, Series B level, then it's their strategic decision to outsource or again to set up a remote team. So it means that they're in the game for a longer period of time and they're way more committed than a smaller organization. But technically, essentially, it's still a startup.
Let's give Anton a warm round of applause.